video, I'm going to be discussing trade techniques for MULN Auto. To begin with, this is just an overview of the Webull platform. It's super helpful in the morning time. I like to use the scanner here, tops, pre-market, and then this can show you what big movers are happening before the market's open. And this can sometimes just add stocks on your watch list that you want to keep an eye on and that could rally past what their major resistance point was in the morning time. But anyway, so we'll start with MULN here. So when you look at MULN, stock has been around since 2012. Obviously 10 years later, it's beaten down from its $1,000 mark. Now, I'm not sure really if this is an accurate price here. We'd have to look back in history, but regardless, all we care about now is what's happening here. And you can see what would spark interest. First of all, looking at this weekly chart, is down here, this volume indicator is showing that now there's a lot of interest with this stock. People want to buy this, so something is driving this interest. So if we zoom in here, we start to get a smaller time frame, and we can get a better idea or understanding of where we're at in a trend of a stock. So looking at the volume again to clarify, so we had these big buys and then a small sell. Today it was maybe down 4%. It actually held its support extremely well. But then above this is kind of my main indicator for going long on a stock. And we could still argue that it's early for a confirmed cross to take the trade. However, if you wanted to be a little more risky, you could say this is a confirmation and then cut your loss if you get out quicker. And then down here, this indicator shows your relative strength index. So it shows how overbought a stock is and then how oversold. So another bullish thing that I see on this chart is we're bouncing out of this relative strength oversold area, which could give us a nice bounce into the future. So how do we time our short-term entry if we want to take this trade? We could buy options, but the thing is, the expiration date is out extremely far, and you're paying an extremely high premium on a call due to implied volatility being high, which just means the demand for that option chain at the moment. So we'll go back to our chart because we know that we're only going to buy underlying stock. So let's go through our different time frames on a chart. Here is our daily. So we can see we're still in an uptrend. Now our relative strength is getting a little bit hot. So we could maybe look for this price to cool down and then we could purchase on the next resistance break, thinking that it could break out further and go based off of psychology. So let's go down to our 1 hour. So again, we have a pretty bullish 1 hour. And you can see here that we're starting to get a wedge. And I wouldn't personally invest in this yet. I took profits already until this wedge works itself out a little further. And what you can see is if you want to draw, and this would be maybe a little easier to see on a better example, but pretty much what will happen is if this stock will coil to this point, obviously it could go further, it could break out earlier, but pretty much whichever way this eventually breaks out, and what will happen is this volume will shrink, and then the volume will really increase with either a sell, so a break to the downward side, or an upwards movement that goes upwards and then takes us obviously higher. So what we would do as traders is wait for a confirmation of a breakout of the wedge or a resistance break because we're only going for a short-term gain. We come down to the 30-minute, the same thing. Now, the 5-minute and the 1 minute are excellent for making day trades because let me get rid of these charts here. You can really see simple 1 minute price action. So I like to use the 5-minute if I'm using a day trade. That MACD tends to be pretty accurate. But as you can see here, that the shorter you get in time frame, obviously you're going to have a MACD that's quite accurate. And you can tell that every time this crosses, it's not perfect. It doesn't lie. The MACD makes a difference in stock price. So if you can use this with this relative strength index here, you can be profitable daily as well as monthly or weekly. So if you do take this trade, we then would set a stop loss, and you can do this either at a certain level or by using a percentage stop loss, which we can go into further lessons with. That is the MULN trade, and we will continue to post updates